Welcome to the dairies of science fiction, where extraordinary stories come to life. Enjoy the journey. The arena's gravity hummed at a polite 98%, just enough to make visitors feel almost at home, while quietly reminding them that nothing here was meant for humans. I felt it in my knees as I stepped onto the luminous floor, a faint pressure like the universe resting an elbow on my shoulders. Across from me stood my opponent, already relaxed, already certain. She waited with the patience of someone who had never needed to hurry for anything in her life. The crowd's noise came in waves, filtered through translation fields that struggled to keep up with alien enthusiasm. Somewhere above us, drones traced lazy circles, projecting odds and statistics in floating glyphs. Every time my name appeared, the numbers flickered apologetically, as if embarrassed to be associated with me. I squinted up at them and gave a small salute. "Nice font," I muttered, "very flattering." That earned a few confused clicks and whistles from the stands. Humor rarely translated well across species, but I'd learned to try anyway. Silence, after all, gave people too much time to decide you were afraid. My opponent tilted her head, long ears angling slightly back in what I suspected was mild irritation. She looked human enough at a distance, except for those ears and the way her posture radiated confidence like an energy field. Her eyes followed me with open appraisal, the kind reserved for training equipment or experimental weapons. "Not a person, certainly not a threat. You may surrender now," she said, her voice carried effortlessly through the arena. "It would preserve your dignity, such as it is." I considered this, tapping the side of my helmet. "Is surrender before the fight considered dignified here?" I asked. "Because where I'm from, we usually wait until at least the second mistake." A ripple of sound moved through the crowd, uncertain laughter mixing with disapproval. She did not smile. Instead, she stepped forward, boots locking into the arena's combat grid with a soft magnetic click. Her species favored tradition, and tradition favored efficiency. This was meant to be quick. The signal chimed, a clean, emotionless tone that marked the beginning of centuries-old ritual. She moved first. Of course she did. Her strike came fast, guided by training implants and muscle memory refined across generations. I barely had time to raise my guard before the impact sent me skidding backward. The arena floor absorbed most of it, but not all. My teeth rattled and I tasted copper. "So that's a no on the weighting," I said, forcing the words out as I rolled to my feet. She advanced without answering, every step precise. The second blow caught my shoulder, the third glanced off my ribs. Each hit was measured, almost clinical. She wasn't angry, she was efficient. Somewhere above us the drones recalculated, the odds shifting from humiliating to absurd. I focused on breathing, in through the nose, out through the mouth. Gravity hummed, the crowd roared. My suit fed me data in quiet pulses, warnings stacking like unpaid bills. I ignored most of them. She paused just briefly, clearly puzzled by the fact that I was still upright. "You endure pain well," she said, "for a human." "Low bar," I replied. "We're very proud of it." Another strike came, and this time I let it land where I wanted. The impact hurt, spectacularly so, but it put me close enough to feel the heat from her armor. I caught a glimpse of her expression then, not triumph but mild annoyance, like a door that refused to open on the first try. I stepped back before she could capitalize, hands raised, posture loose. "You know," I said, "back home, we call this the awkward part where everyone realizes the brochure oversold the experience." Her ears twitched, not anger, not yet, confusion. Around us, the arena seemed to lean in. The gravity fluctuated by a fraction, responding to combat algorithms older than my species' written history. This place was designed to test limits, to expose weakness. It had never been designed with humans in mind. Which I was beginning to suspect was exactly the problem. She attacked again, faster now, pressure building. I retreated, not in panic but in calculation, letting her set the pace. Every step she took followed doctrine. Every move assumed I would break before she did. I didn't correct that assumption. I simply kept moving, kept breathing, kept making small, irritating jokes that chipped away at the silence she expected. By the time the first minute ended, I was bruised, sore, and grinning like an idiot. She stood across from me, chest rising a little faster than before, eyes narrowed. "This is taking longer than projected," she said. "Story of my life," I answered. Somewhere in the stands, someone laughed. This time it sounded genuine. She changed tactics without announcing it, which I took as a compliment. The next strike wasn't meant to knock me back or test my guard. It was meant to end things. Her fist came in low, then high, then vanished from my vision entirely as she pivoted, momentum amplified by the arena's assist fields. My suit screamed warnings I'd already learned to ignore. I went down hard. The floor met me like an old enemy with unfinished business. For a second, the ceiling lights blurred into a single white band, and I wondered if this was the part where the medics rushed in and politely informed me I'd proven my point by surviving longer than expected. Instead, I heard her footsteps circling, unhurried, confident again. "Remain down," she said. "Your nervous system requires recovery." "I'm pacing myself," I replied from the floor. "Humans are big on sustainable suffering." That got a reaction. Not laughter, something sharper. Disbelief, maybe. I rolled onto my side and pushed myself up, joints protesting, muscles sending angry messages in every language they knew. The gravity shifted again, adjusting for my movement, as if the arena itself was trying to decide whether I was a statistical error or a bad joke. She came at me from the side this time. I barely avoided it, the blow slicing through the space where my head had been a moment earlier. The air cracked. I felt the pressure ripple across my skin. "You are inefficient," she said. "You waste motion, you waste energy." "True," I said, stepping back. "But I make up for it with stubbornness and poor decision-making." She struck again. I blocked, barely, my arm going numb from the impact. The force behind her blows was unreal, calibrated to break bones that were denser than mine. Every instinct told me to retreat, to give her distance. I did the opposite, closing in just enough to disrupt her rhythm, not enough to threaten, enough to annoy. Her ear twitched again. I was starting to notice those. "You could have been honorable," she said, breathing a little harder now. "You chose mockery." "I chose survival," I said. "Mockery's just a side effect." She hesitated, just a fraction of a second, long enough for me to move. I didn't strike. I stepped inside her guard and let her miss me by centimeters, feeling the rush of displaced air. The crowd gasped as one, a sound that rolled through the arena like static. I retreated immediately, hands up, palms open. "See," I said, "still alive, everyone wins." The drones above us flickered, recalculating again. I caught a glimpse of the projections shifting, probabilities tightening into uncomfortable territory. Somewhere an algorithm was having a very bad day. She stared at me now, really stared, as if trying to reconcile what she was seeing with everything she knew. "You should be broken," she said. "Yeah," I agreed. "That's what my doctor keeps saying." Her next attack was fueled by something new. Not anger, determination sharpened by uncertainty. She moved faster, chaining strikes together in patterns meant to overwhelm. I took hits I couldn't avoid, each one a bright flare of pain, each one carefully absorbed, redirected, survived. I fell again. I got up again. Time stretched. The crowd quieted, the earlier cheers replaced by focused attention. This was no longer a spectacle, it was a problem. "You do not fight to win," she said between exchanges. "No," I said, wiping blood from my lip. "I fight to not lose." That seemed to bother her more than any insult. Her species prized decisive victory, clean endings, strength proven through dominance. Endurance didn't fit neatly into that philosophy. Neither did humor, especially humor delivered by someone who should, by all available data, be unconscious. The arena shifted again, environmental fields adjusting, subtle changes in gravity and air density meant to maintain fairness. I laughed when I felt it, a short, breathless sound. "Did it just help you?" I asked. Because that feels like cheating. It assists both combatants equally, she snapped. Great, I said. Then we're both uncomfortable. She lunged. I sidestepped. She overextended just a little and I saw it. The strain, the energy drain she wasn't used to managing. Her training assumed short engagements. Mine assumed nothing ever ended on time. I didn't capitalize, I let the moment pass. Her eyes widened. Why? I shrugged, didn't feel right. For the first time since the duel began, she stopped attacking. We stood there, facing each other, breathing hard, the arena buzzing with restrained anticipation. This contest was meant to demonstrate superiority, she said slowly. It still can, I replied, just maybe not the way you expected. The silence stretched, heavy and electric. Somewhere in that pause something shifted, not just in the odds but in the space between us. Respect hadn't arrived yet. But shock had, and it was doing a thorough job rearranging things. The signal chimed again, marking another phase of the duel. She raised her guard. So did I. The signal for the final phase sounded different. Lower. Heavier. It vibrated through my bones instead of my ears. A reminder that this part of the duel was never meant to last long enough to be memorable. The arena adjusted again, gravity tightening its grip, assist fields sharpening reactions instead of softening them. Somewhere overhead, I heard a drone recalculating and then stopping, as if it had simply given up. She moved first, but not with the same certainty as before. There was intent in her motion now, layered with caution. That alone felt like a victory. I rolled my shoulders, feeling every bruise argue its case. My suit flashed warnings I no longer bothered to read. I'd crossed the point where information helped. Now it was just me, her, and a very opinionated floor. You are deteriorating, she said. Yeah, I replied. That's my secret, I start that way. She almost smiled, almost. The next exchange was brutal. No wasted motion, no testing strikes. She committed fully, and I answered in kind. Not with strength, but with timing, with angles learned the hard way in places where nobody cared if you won, only whether you walked away. I took a hit meant to crush my sternum and redirected it enough to stay standing. The pain was sharp and clean and very persuasive. Her breathing was no longer controlled. Mine wasn't either, but I was used to sounding like that. This should not be possible, she said, driving me back. Humans specialize in that, I said. Impossible is kind of our brand. She stepped back suddenly, boots locking again, stance shifting into something I hadn't seen yet. The crowd reacted instantly, a wave of sound rippling outward. I recognized the posture not from training but from context. This was something ceremonial, dangerous, final. My suit finally decided this was worth mentioning. Every warning it had saved lit up at once. Oh, I said, that looks serious. It is forbidden in most public duels, she said. But this contest has already deviated. Yeah, I agreed. Sorry about that. She moved and the world narrowed to a single line of intent. The technique was elegant, devastating, designed to overwhelm neural response before pain even registered. I saw it coming only because she hesitated. Just a breath. Just enough. I didn't counter cleanly. I couldn't. I absorbed what I could, twisted with the force, felt something tear that I'd rather not name. The impact drove me to one knee, vision flashing white. But her momentum carried past where she expected resistance, and when she turned, her balance was gone. I was already moving. Not fast, not strong, just there. I took her arm, leveraged the angle, and stripped the weapon from her grasp with a motion so simple it felt almost insulting. We froze like that, her wrist locked, my hands shaking from effort, the arena silent enough that I could hear my own heartbeat arguing with my lungs. I let go. She stared at me, stunned, then looked down at her empty hand. You had the advantage, she said. Yeah, I said, sitting back hard on the floor. Didn't feel right. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Then the signal chimed again, uncertain this time, like it wasn't sure whether it was allowed to exist. The drones hovered, projections flickering uselessly. The adjudicator's voice finally cut through, strained. The duel is concluded. She didn't look at the stands, she looked at me. Really looked this time, not as a problem or a curiosity, but as something that had to be reevaluated. You could have ended it, she said. So could you, I replied. Guess we both learned something. Medics rushed in, hovering at the edge of my vision, waiting for permission that never came. I waved them off weakly. Give me a minute. I'm collecting my dignity. It's scattered. That did it, she laughed. A short sound, surprised, like she hadn't planned on it and wasn't sure she approved. Her ears flicked back, then relaxed. Your species is infuriating, she said. High praise, I said. We'll put it on the flag. They helped us both to our feet. The arena lights dimmed, spectacle fading into aftermath. Around us, the crowd buzzed, no longer mocking, no longer certain. Something fundamental had shifted, and they could feel it. As we stood there, battered and breathing, I realized something else had shifted too. Not in the arena, in me. I'd come here expecting to endure, to prove a point through stubborn survival. I was leaving having done something harder. I'd been seen. She inclined her head, a gesture that carried weight far beyond the motion. You fought with restraint, she said. That is strength my people do not measure well. We're still working on measuring it.